On Facebook Live. So good morning, Facebook land. And thank you everybody for joining us for our Sunday morning Pilates. And there's Maisie again, making her appearance. So again, thank you everybody for joining me this morning. Beautiful sunny Sunday morning, much nicer than waking up to the snow yesterday. So let's go ahead and get started. Sit up nice and tall, stacking your shoulders over your hips, and we'll take a couple of nice deep breaths in through your nose and out through your mouth. Again, deep breath in. One more, and as you breathe in, I want you to feel your collarbones opening, your rib cage expanding through the front and the back. Fill all of that extra space. And as you exhale, hold that space and that height. And bring your right hand high up on your rib cage. Let your left hand fall heavy to the floor behind you. And bring right ear to right shoulder. And take a couple of deep breaths in. So again, propping up that right side, left side is heavy behind you. And as you breathe in, you should feel a nice stretch through the back of your neck on the left side. And then very carefully turn your head. So you're still with your right ear to your right shoulder, but I want you to turn your gaze up towards the ceiling just a little bit. So just tilting your chin, still having your ear down, and you'll feel that stretch move from the back of your neck a little bit more into the front. And again, deep breath in. Turn your gaze forward again. Come back to center, and we switch. Left hand up, right hand heavy to the floor behind you, and left ear to left shoulder. And again, gaze is forward to start. Deep breaths in, feel that stretch through the back of your neck. And then keeping ear to shoulder, turn your gaze slightly up towards the ceiling. Gaze back to front and come back to center. On your next inhale, reach up nice and tall with your right hand. And exhale, left hand to right knee. Give me a torso twist. And again, inhale, reach. And exhale, twist. Inhale and reach. And exhale to twist. So all of these movements that I'm doing where I say inhale one thing and exhale another, this is your breath and not mine. So don't ever feel like you have to breathe faster or slower to keep up. Last one on this side. Back to center. And inhale, reach up with the left. Big long stretch. And then exhale, right hand to left knee and twist. Inhale, reach. exhale, twist. And one more. Inhale to reach. And exhale, twist. And then I'm going to turn on my mat. So if you're on a regular yoga mat, your feet are going to be mat width apart. Otherwise, just a little bit wider than your hips. And you sit up nice and tall, working the muscles of your legs to press them down onto the mat. Ankles flexed, toes pointed back towards you. Inhale, reach your hands up to shoulder height. And on your exhale, I want you to reach out and past opposite little toe. Inhale up tall. And exhale out to the other side. So inhale, fill up. Exhale to reach. Again. Inhale, fill. And exhale, I like to imagine blowing all that air out, hollowing out my belly to reach forward. Keep those legs pressed down on the mat. Reaching forward. Come back up to straight spine. One more each side. And back to center. I'm going to bring my feet together in the center of the mat. And again, legs are still pressed down. You're going to be rolling all the way back and down, so make sure that you're in a place where you're not going to crash into something when you roll back. Legs are still pressed down onto the mat. Ankles are going to stay flexed. Inhale, reach your hands forward. And exhale, roll slowly back. You're going to be placing your spine down on the mat, one vertebrae at a time, slowly resisting all the way down as you come down, all the way down on the floor. Deep breath in at the bottom. If you have room, you can reach your hands all the way up overhead. And then exhale, roll up just as slowly, keeping those legs pressed down, keeping the muscles of the legs active. And reach all the way forward. Reaching for your feet. And we'll do that a couple more times. Inhale, reach forward. And exhale, slowly roll back. Resisting all the way down. Deep breath in at the bottom. And exhale, roll up. Last one. And all the way forward. And we're going to roll down onto the mat. Feet about mat width apart. Toes pointed straight down. And take a moment and do a few pelvic tilts. So allow your low back to arch up off the mat. And then tilt your pelvis to press that low back down. It's a little movement. Allow it to arch and then push it down. Last one. Allow your back to arch up and then press it down and keep that low back pressed down. And then we'll add movement to breath on your next inhale. You're going to reach out opposite arm and leg. Keeping that low back pressed down. Exhale back to center. And again, inhale, reach. Keeping that low back in contact with the mat. Exhale back to center. So as you reach that leg all the way out, you're going to feel your low back wanting to kind of pull up off the mat. Keep pushing it down, even if that means you can't actually bring your heel down to the mat. It's more important to have that core engagement and to have your low back pressed down. One more each. And back to center. And you're going to open your feet out wider than hip width. I'm going to do some internal hip rotation, so keeping the left knee up to the ceiling. So left foot down, left knee pointed up to the ceiling. I'm going to drop my right knee down to the inside. And you will feel your hip lift up, your right hip lift up off the mat. You'll feel your low back come up a little bit. That's okay. We're looking for that stretch through the hip flexor in the front, a little bit on the side. Press that knee down, internal rotation. Bring that right knee back up. And then switch. So your right foot stays flat, right knee up, and drop your left knee down internally. And again, you should feel that through your hip flexors in the front. Back to center. And drop the right knee. Again, pushing that right knee down to the floor, towards the floor. You might not actually get there, but towards the floor. Feel that hip flexor stretch in the front. You might also start to feel it in your quads, kind of creeping down the inside of the leg, almost to the inside of the knee, as you stretch through those muscles and lengthen the muscles that are typically very tight as we sit. Release that right knee, and one more on the left. Dropping it down. And come back to center. Bring your legs up to tabletop. So your knees are stacked over your hips, shins parallel to the floor, ankles flexed, toes pointed back towards your knees. Your low back should be pressed down. So if you need to start by bringing your knees in a little bit, feel that low back pressed down, and then bring your knees back out, keeping that low back pressed down. Hands reach up so they're stacked over your shoulders, palms facing in. And we're going to do one heel tap down and then the other. Coming back to tabletop, low back press down. Keeping your low back pressed down the whole time. Arms up. And keep that 90-degree bend to your knee. One more each side. And then let's go into full extension of the leg. So again, just keeping your hands up, press one leg all the way out, pushing away with your heel. Keep that low back pressed down. Bring it back up and switch. Working to keep your low back down. Arms are active as they reach up overhead. Come back to center. Drop your arms down to the floor at about shoulder height, so all the way out and down. Keeping that bend to the knee. Drop both knees out to one side for a spinal twist. Gaze always turns in the opposite direction. Alternately here, you can keep your feet down on the floor and knees bent and do a twist that way. If you're having any low back issues at all, keep your feet on the floor. Up and through the center and out to the other side. And again, gaze always turns in the opposite direction. One more each side. And back to center. And hug both knees in. Little side to side roll. And then we're going to go into our single leg stretch. So raising chest and shoulders up off the mat, extend your left leg out. Active, toes pointed away. Leg is about 45 degrees from the floor, hugging your right knee in. You inhale to switch. Exhale to pull that other knee in. Keeping your chest and shoulders up off the mat. Thinking pushing them up towards the ceiling rather than pulling with your head. So you want to keep your neck as relaxed as you can. And you can speed this one up if you like. Or keep it nice and slow. You can really focus on pulling that knee in for the stretch. Last one. And release down. Hands down by your sides. You're going to bring your legs straight up overhead. So your hands can be right in by your sides, or you can open them out a little bit wider. If you feel like you need a little bit larger of a base for stability, always welcome to open your hands out a little bit. Palms down for a little bit more stability. Palms up to allow for your chest and your shoulders to relax and open just a little bit. Toes pointed up overhead. Straight stacked up over your hips to start. And then we're going to lift them up. Lift the hips up. So your toes are now up over your nose, raising your hips up off the mat. Tuck your knees in towards your chest. Start to bend your knees. Toes down towards the mat. Sweep straight legs out. And again, slowly, toes up over your nose. Raise your hips up. Tuck your knees in. And slowly lower your toes down towards the mat. Straighten out. And we continue with this. So really super slow motion. Hips up first. And then tuck the knees in. And slow as you're extending out, make sure that your low back is pressed down. All the way up. Last one. And hug your knees in. And let's go into, again, a single leg stretch, but straight leg. So again, raising your chest and shoulders up towards the ceiling. So think about pushing them straight up. Extend your left leg out. Reach your right leg straight up. And again, on your breath, inhale as you switch. Exhale to pull in. One more each. And release down. Again, hands down by your sides, legs straight up overhead. We're going to go through a clock. So your left toes are going to stay pointed up, holding the center of that clock. Your right toes will reach up over your nose. Back to center. Right toes out to 3 o'clock. Stabilizing through the center. As far out as you can take them. Left toes are still holding the center. Back up. Right toes down to 6 o'clock. Big stretch between the legs. Back up. And now right toes hold the center, left down to 6 o'clock. Back up. Left toes out to 9 o'clock. Again, keep reaching up to center with those right toes. That's how you stay stable on the mat. Left toes back up, and then left toes come up to 12 o'clock, up over your nose. Again, keep actively pointing the right toes up, back to center. Let's do that again, adding in a couple more numbers. So again, left toes actively pointing up, holding the center, right toes up to 12, reaching up, back to center. Right toes are going to come up over your right shoulder, somewhere between what would be 1 and 2 o'clock. Back to center. Hold the center with your left toes, reach the right, all the way out to 3 o'clock. Back up. Down between 4 and 5. Again, really holding the center with your left toes. Come back up. And right toes down to 6 o'clock. So it's as much about the leg that's holding the center, that's helping to stabilize the core. Back up, and we switch. Right toes hold the center. Left
actively reach down to 6 o'clock. Back up. Left toes down somewhere between 7 and 8. And actively reaching the right toes up to center. Left toes down. Back up. Left out to 9 o'clock. Keep reaching up with the right. Back up. Left somewhere between 10 and 11. Back up. And left toes up to 12. Back to center and hug both knees in. Little side to side roll. And then both legs up overhead. I'm going to flex at the ankles so your toes are pointed back down towards you. Really working to stack knees and ankles over your hips. And then externally rotate. Not sure if you can really see this very well on the video, but you can externally rotate all the way from the hip up. So your heels are together, your toes are pointed out. And you're going to keep your left heel pushed up to the ceiling. Right crosses in front 4 times. Click the heels back together. And left crosses in front 4 times. Always back to center in between. In between, heels touching together, keep pushing the heels up to the ceiling. 1 more each side. Back to center, hold, press those heels up. And release. Hug your knees in. Little side to side roll. And a double leg stretch. So we've done our single straight. We'll do our double leg. So hugging your knees in. Raise again your chest and shoulders up towards the ceiling. On your inhale, you're going to reach out, hollow hold, low back press down, belly button pull down towards your spine. Exhale, sweep your hands around and hug your knees in. Inhale, reach out, hollow hold. Exhale, sweep around. Inhale to reach. Exhale, sweep. Couple more. And last one. Holding here. Low back press down. Nice hollow hold. 1 more breath. And exhale. Sweep around. And release down onto the mat. And we're going to come up to seated. I'm going to turn around so I better see the camera. And you're going to want your strap close by for this one. So we're going to do a couple of variations on a V-sit or a boat, depending on what you want to call it. So starting first, we'll go without the strap. So I want you to sit back a little bit, find your balance, hands to the sides of your knees. Sit back and raise your feet up. off the mat. And just kind of find your balance. Keep thinking chest forward, chest forward. Extend one leg out and then the other. And again, just keep thinking chest forward. And release your legs, let your knees bend back in, still holding that balance. And this time, release your hands. So your knees are bent, you're balanced, chest is forward, fingertips reaching forward. Back to center. And you can roll down for just a second, feet back to the floor. And we're going to do that again. Legs and arms this time. So again, think about chest forward, nice and straight through the spine. And sit back, find your balance. We'll start with legs one at a time, extending out. And then one hand at a time, reaching forward. And again, just keep thinking chest forward. If at any point you need to bend your knees to bring your chest in just a little bit, you can do that, and then extend the legs back out. Keep reaching your fingertips forward. Find that balance and strength. Hands back to the sides of your legs and release down. All right, looking good. We're gonna grab the strap. And put it across the bottoms of both feet. And I'm gonna wrap it around my hands just so that I can keep a hold of it without having to really grip and hold. And we start again with that same setup, bringing your heels up to find your balance. And you're going to extend your legs out and then pull them in. So using this strap to ease through the movements, pulling the legs in and reaching out. Couple more. Last one. And pull in and release your feet down. And keeping that strap. Place it around just your right foot. We're going to roll back down onto the mat. Left leg extended all the way out onto the mat. Low back press down. Walk your hands up the strap, pushing up towards the ceiling with your heel. So it's a nice long straight leg stretch on the right, but also good core engagement on the left. Hip flexors engaged, leg muscles engaged to press your left leg down onto the mat. Release some of that tension on the strap and guide your right leg out to the right side, keeping your low back pressed down. And we're going to come back up through the center and out to the left. So switching hands on the strap. Back up and out to the right. Back through the center and to the left. And back to the center and switch feet. So left foot on the strap, right leg extended all the way out and down onto the mat. Walk your hands up the strap for a nice straight leg stretch to start. Pushing up towards the ceiling with your heel, with your left heel. Your right heel should be pushing out away and down onto the mat. And then release some of that tension. Left hand on the strap and guide out to the left side. Back up through the center and out to the right. So working to keep your low back pressed down. Back through the center. And again, out to the left. And back up. And to the right. And back to the center. You can set the strap aside and we're going to roll over onto our sides. So I'm starting with my low back in line with the back of the mat. My feet forward to the front corner of the mat, legs straight. And we're going to start with a leg lift. So raise and lower that top leg. Last one. And then raise that leg up to hip height. You're going to sweep it forward. And then back through center line, back past center line, and back. So really engaging the core as you do this so that your upper body is strong and stationary on the mat. You're not wobbling back and forth as a counterbalance to your leg. Sweep forward and back. And then let's do 2 pulses. Forward and 2 pulses to the back. Use those pulses to try and increase your range of motion. And the whole time keeping that leg up at hip height. One more each. And keeping that leg at hip height. Your bottom foot is still slightly forward. You can also bend that bottom knee if you need a little bit more stability. Top leg is extended out. I want you to point your toes away. You're going to do a sweep and tap to the front, sweep and tap behind. Sweep to the front and sweep around behind. Sometimes the cat gets in the way and then looks at me indignantly when I bump her. Last one. Bring your feet back together. And then I want you to externally rotate that top leg. So while your bottom leg, your toes are still facing forward, your top leg now has been turned all the way from the hip, so your knee is pointed up towards the ceiling, and raise and lower that way, working to keep that rotation so your knee is pointed up and not forward. Toe pointed away. Two more. And bring your legs back together. Turn that top leg so your knee is facing forward, and then bring both knees forward. We're going to do some clams. So in this first set, I want you to make sure that your top hip stays stacked over your bottom hip, maybe even slightly forward. What you don't want is to twist through the spine so that your hip is dropping back. So feet are together, that top hip is stacked. Open and close that top knee. So again, no twisting at all. If that makes your movement a little bit smaller, that's fine. I'd rather have a smaller movement and keep that top hips even slightly forward. Last one. And then raise your feet up. And again, open and close that top knee. Couple more of these. And release down. And we're going to roll over and get the other side. So again, upper body starts out in line with the back of the mat. Feet come forward. And start toes facing forward, ankle flexed, and raise and lower that top leg. And then raise that top leg up to hip height, ankle flexed, sweep the foot forward, back through the center, past center and back. Keep the leg, the whole leg up to hip height as you sweep back, ankle flexed. Upper body is strong, not wobbling. And then add in 2 pulses. Forward and back. See if you can't increase that range of motion with each pulse. One more each. And bring your feet back together. Again, raise that top leg up to hip height, toes pointed away. You're going to tap out in front, big sweep out to the back, tap behind you. Sweep and tap to the front. Sweep and tap behind. One more each side. Bring your legs back together. And again, going to externally rotate that top leg. So your knee is pointed up towards the ceiling. Your lower leg, your toes are still facing forward. Top leg, toe pointed away. Kick all the way up. And slowly lower back down. Really working to keep that rotation of the leg and toe pointed away. So the whole time you have that external rotation. So your knee is pointed up and out and not forward. And toe pointed away. See a lot of flexed ankles on Zoom. Last one. And turn that knee back to the front. Regular rotation, and then bring your knees forward. And again, starting with those clams, top hip shifted slightly forward maybe, but staying stacked, feet locked together and open and close. So no twisting at all through the center. Last one. And then raise your feet up, keep them locked together, and again, open and close that top knee. Two more. Lower your feet down. We're going to roll over. Start with a child's pose. So drop your hips back, reaching fingertips forward, and just sink into your hips, back towards your heels. Walk your hands out to the right. So keep pushing your hips back towards your left heel, but fingertips reaching up towards the right. You get a nice stretch through your lats as well as your hips. Back to center and out to the left. Fingertips reaching up and to the left. Hips sinking back. Back to center. And come up on your knees. Step your right foot forward. Walk your foot in towards the center and then drop that knee down to the outside. Hands down in front. So it's just kind of my cheater way of getting into a pigeon pose. And sink down towards that front leg. You can stay up on your hands or come down onto your elbows if you're able to get them both to connect. Walk your hands back in towards your body. Come back up onto both knees and step forward with the left. And again, bring the left foot in towards the center. Drop the knee down and extend that right leg back up behind you. If you can, come down onto your elbows. Otherwise, stay up on your hands. And you can kind of play around with it too. The stretch does feel a little different if you're up on your hands and your chest is a little more upright versus if you sit forward and sink into your elbows. You might feel the stretch a little differently. Might feel better one way than the other. Might be a little bit more of what you need this morning. So just kind of feel free to play and move through the different positions. And walk your hands back in towards your body. And come back to center. And that's it for the day. So thank you all so much for joining me. I'm going to say goodbye to Facebook Live. Thank you for joining me. And Zoom, if you hang out with me for 1 second, I want to unmute. Pilates again this week. Tuesday and Thursday, 11 a.m. will be Facebook Live. We'll be on Zoom. So thank you, Facebook, for joining us.